Welcome everyone to Not So Common with Pat Contry. I hope you're doing well out there. My guest today on the podcast will be Norm Caruso, a retro gaming YouTuber and video game historian. It's going to be a great show. We'll be discussing him hitting 1 million YouTube subscribers and its significance, the Tetris movie, and lots more. But first, let me tell you all about our sponsor today that also helps us relive gaming's past, Retrobit. Retrobit's mission for years has been to help us play the classics the way they were meant to be played, with high-quality accessories and official re-releases of rare and hard-to-find games, and even games that were never released in certain regions. It's a great way to try and breathe new life back into games that may otherwise be forgotten or overlooked by us gamers. Retrobit even adds content back into games, does translations, and more. And now they're back with another high-quality set of licensed retro game re-releases. This time, it's Hammer and Harry. Our heroic Carpenter stars in Hammer and Harry, featuring the NES port of the original 1990 arcade game released in North America in a cartridge for the first time, and Hammer and Harry 2, Dan the Red Strikes Back, translated and officially released outside of Japan for the first time. Each one is full of platforming action where you'll take on the Rusty Nailers, Dr. Parallel, and the Giant Phantom, all here to ruin Harry's time with his girlfriend. So grab your trusty hammer and headband, and let's get hammering! Each individual game comes with a specially colored cartridge, a durable deluxe hardcover cartridge box, a full-colored instruction manual, and an exclusive acrylic cartridge display stand for each title. The two NES games will be getting the excellent Retrobit treatment. You can also get the Hammer and Harry Concrete Collection, which includes both games and a special edition slipcase for collector's editions. If you're in North America, you can pre-order Hammer and Harry until May 21st at Castlemania Games or Limited Run Games. In Europe, you can pre-order at Strictly Limited Games, Dragon Box Shop, Spielosant, and more. Head to retro-bit.com for more information. And now it's time to speak with our special guest on this Not So Common podcast. He's a longtime video game, retro gaming YouTuber focusing on the history of our great entertainment pastime. He's also been a friend for a long time. Please welcome Norm Caruso, the gaming historian. Norm, it's certainly been a while since we've had our last recorded conversation like this. How you doing?
Hello, Pat. I am doing well. How are you?
I'm doing all right, but you are doing better than me. I should have put this in the intro. If I was a good podcaster, I would have. You have recently reached 1 million subscribers on YouTube.
It's true.
It
happened, yeah.
I know it was something you were conscious of. I know it was a minor goal of yours.
It should have been a minor goal, but it turned into almost an obsession.
Really?
Yeah, it was a little unhealthy. I think like 2.5 years ago, I looked at my sub count and I was like, oh, I could probably hit 1 million subs if I in the next few years. And then I don't know what, but I just kept thinking about it and it was not healthy. And that's the lesson here is don't obsess over numbers. It'll happen naturally. Just let things happen,
Or it won't happen naturally.
If you totally screw up, it won't happen.
Thanks, Norm. Have you had that sort of mindset when it comes to your producing your videos, where like an OCD almost sort of thing, where is that what's driven you to be that meticulous and detail oriented? That same sort of semi-obsession? You think it's related at all?
I think I have some perfectionism in me for sure. And so I think when I realized that I could attain this goal of hitting 1 million subs, I was like, well, I have to hit it, because if I don't hit it, then I've failed, and I'll have huge regrets over it if I don't hit it. So
you honestly internalize it to the fact where, wow, this will mean something to me. If I don't hit this goal, it will mean that on some level I've not achieved my objective. So you almost gamified it to a way, or is there something more behind that where you're just well, maybe I'm not as good as I think I am if I don't have 1 million people subscribe to me.
I don't know. I've never, throughout my whole career on YouTube, I've never really thought about subscribers, but for some reason, the 1 million number got to me, and I was like, man, I have to hit this goal. I was like, I have to hit 1 million subs, because I remember when I hit 100,000. I was like, oh, sweet, I hit 100,000. And they sent me the little award, and I did a little video, and I just kept making videos, but I don't know, like when I realized I could hit a million, it changed me, Pat. It changed me. It broke me inside for some reason.
You lost friends, family, shattered because of
That's
that.
right. Kristen left me.
Oh, is this an
No.
exclusive?
No.
I'm gonna go on Keemstar.
I will say, like Kristen was really helpful, because she said, just keep doing your thing. It's gonna happen. Just keep making your videos. So she kept me grounded. And that's what I did. I just kept working on my videos, and it did happen. It happened March. Happened in March. I can't honestly, when it happened, I didn't even know it happened. My mother-in-law texted me and said, "Congratulations." And I said, "For what?" And she said, "You hit 1 million subs on YouTube." And I said, "Oh." And I was happy that day.
And you're like, what is something else going on? Is in my personal life that my mother-in-law's telling me?
Yeah.
It could be anything. Well, that's interesting. I don't remember when I hit 100,000. I don't even honestly know the time frame. It must have been 2014 or 15, something like that. I do remember I did like a video, tongue in cheek. I did a 2,600 subscriber video holding a 2,600 box. And then I did a 5,200 one holding the 5,200 box. But back then, that was like, whatever that was, 2010 or so, when like that had meanings, still having a couple thousand subscribers. And now it's like, now having a couple thousand, it's like having 200, like the scales are so off.
It's way different.
So, I didn't do a video for my 100,000th. Maybe I should have. But when I got it, I was just like, oh, this is cool. Maybe I was busy at the time. I don't know. But no, a million is definitely a milestone. I know you were thinking about it. So is that what sort of got you jolted in order to put in more effort for your, the videos the past couple of years? Because obviously your production, going back to the start, let's just say all our production has gone up in the past 15 years. Our production values and our writing and our, starting with, non-HD cameras. And now we all have DSLRs or even smartphones that are more powerful than the $2,000 camcorder I started off with, So
it wasn't a motivator to like up my production. I wasn't like, oh man, if I up my production, I'll get more subscribers. Like that's just, I always try to improve every video. That's just me. But it is it's funny seeing where you came from to where you are now, for sure. I think I started with it's like a Canon snapshot digital camera that somehow could record video.
Yes.
And that's what I did my videos on.
Yeah, like we all had the first run of digital cameras from like late 90s, 2000s, and then into the mid 2000s. The video quality on those were actually still pretty decent versus better than a cell phone at the time for sure. And then you went into like the little what was the little handheld digital ones that I remember Derek used to carry one around.
Yeah, there was one. I remember there was one HD camera that it was called like the Flip. I think it was called the Flip. It was like a budget HD camera, and it was like a plug and play. I remember a lot of people got on that bandwagon, and then DSLRs were like, the quality was amazing, but you could only record for like 15 minutes or something. Had like a time limit on it. And now they have mirrorless cameras, which don't have that limit. Or you can get a high-end camcorder.
Do people even do that?
Lots of options now.
Now it's like, hey, if you got an iPhone, that'll shoot great video for the most part.
Oh man, so some of the things I see filmed on an iPhone or any of those high-end cell phones, it's incredible. It's like, man, imagine if we had this back and you just pull out your phone and film a video.
The first camera I used was one I literally bought for my sister's wedding to record the wedding, because we couldn't afford, those videographers. I just set it up. I went up. You know how in a lot of churches they have the upper deck in the back.
Yeah.
I went on there, set up the camera, hit record. So I bought it. I think it was a Sony, probably like $800, $900 at the time. So I used that until I went to HD a couple years later, and that was like $2,000. That was like $2,000, the HD camera. So I went from like a $700 camera, which is now like my cell phone is like 1,000 times more powerful, to a $2,000 camcorder that was an upgrade, but looking at it, it's like on the floor somewhere. I'm not sure I could sell that camcorder. It's one of those bigger ones, you know, like the ones that are as big as like they're like 18 inches long sort of ones. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
yeah.
With a handle on top. No one even
Yep.
uses those anymore. Those were like in vogue like 15 years ago, even 10
I'll
years
give
ago.
you $20 for it.
Okay, yeah, I can sign it. You can put it on.
Yeah.
Put it on.
Have you
eBay.
ever seen that YouTube channel Weird Paul?
Yes, he actually has a copy of my book. I think he did
Yeah.
a short little
So
video
he
showing it.
does his videos on like old VCR recorders, like VCR camcorders, and it's great.
And that's just the
Very
quality.
good.
It's part of the pastiche.
Part of the charm, yeah. He like lives in the past, you know.
Don't we all though? Let's
Yeah, I guess we do.
I mean, that's obviously a part of our motivations for doing these sort of videos in our work, right? I mean, we are wanting to sort of, at least in some specious way, connect with the past, whether it was because we grew up then and we liked being a part of that time and place versus now, or it just interests us so much that we want to revisit it. I'm not saying that's how you got started or why you did, but being a historian, there's something to be said for, yeah, it's quirky being a human being that there are different time periods where things were radically different than what they are now.
Yeah, absolutely. Um, and I don't know if I started my videos purely for like nostalgia's sake. I think I just had an interest in like learning more about where this stuff came from and how it got here. And that's kind of the path I took. But I do like some of the topics I choose to cover is based on like what I grew up with, sure.
And it's interesting because, you know, you were, I guess, the OG YouTube gaming historian. I'm sure there's been some that have tried to claim that crown here and there.
No, I mean there are people doing it before me even.
Oh,
Oh, I can't remember. There was one, all your history or belong to us. I think it was called that. There was some bigger video game sites. I think IGN did a history series. Game Trailers was doing history videos. They weren't like deep dive like documentary style. They were more like retrospectives, but there was stuff out there, sure.
but they weren't like individual YouTubers. There wasn't like the gamer Back to the Future Dude 27 that was on YouTube in 2007.
I can't recall anyone else doing like what I was doing, I guess.
Someone,
It's funny. It's funny when I first started the show, I was like, well, I'll call it the gaming historian because I'm a historian and I'm playing video games. I'm the gaming historian. And it's funny, like sometimes I'll get comments from like they're like upset that the word "the" is in there because it's like I'm implying I'm the only one. And it's like that wasn't my intent. I was just like that's just the name I thought would be best, you know.
I honestly thought before I knew you, and I met you now, like what, about 11 years ago at this point, maybe a little bit before that. I honestly thought when I first heard, I said to myself, the balls on this random person to proclaim themselves as like, I am the guy that could go
See?
back in time with history.
There you go.
I'm like, that's kind of bold of someone to say that, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well,
what?
should I have just called it a gaming historian?
I'm not sure, but it was just interesting because I said, what is this person's qualification? I remember this is like 2010, Pat. What is this person's qualifications to call themselves? But that back then it was like the Wild West of, you know, sort of not just trying to track game history, but also preservation and everything else. And there wasn't a lot of us like doing it in sort of a way that people knew about it.
Well, and I should note that I take your feedback seriously, and that if you look on YouTube, the name of the channel is just Gaming Historian.
Okay.
The word "the" is still in the logo.
Okay.
But if you notice the channel name, it is just Gaming Historian.
You're one of
and
many.
That is why.
You're one of many.
Yeah.
If
I have never claimed to be the king of video game historians.
if you get knocked off, there's a line of succession. Someone else takes over, and they become the gaming historian.
Yeah. If I'm assassinated, a new historian pops up. That's just how it works.
It's like a Doctor Who.
Yeah, yeah, a
someone
new one appears.
someone materializes in Norm's body and starts doing, I don't know, a retrospective on the Super Game Boy. Did you do one on the Super Game Boy? You probably did.
I did, yeah.
Yes. I mean, looking at your past library, obviously you have the controversial top loader one, which we used to argue about. But
You know, I think about that argument every now and then.
do you
And
really? Let people know. Can you roll back the curtain and let people know what that argument was?
Sure. So my first video was on the NES top loader, and I talked about how great it is because you plug in the cart and it plays. It plays every time, unlike the toaster version. And I was like, it's the best version of the NES. And Pat had a problem with that because he said the video quality sucked. It was horrible. It had those weird scan lines vertically. It was like RF only, unless you like sent it into Nintendo and complained. And I remember being like, how can Pat believe this, that's not the superior version? But I've thought back to that argument, and I actually agree with you now.
Wow. And was this an argument on like RetrowareTV.com comments?
It was an argument in my head with you.
Wait a minute. No, because I remember posting like a reply just pointing that out. That wasn't like going after.
I don't know if you ever commented, but you told me in person this many times.
Many times. It came up.
You laughed in my face about how ridiculous it was. I thought the top loader was the superior NES.
And that's why you're not the gaming historian.
That's why I changed the name, yeah.
Well, the one thing that's weird about it that a lot of people, unless you're a weirdo completionist like me, it doesn't play many of the unlicensed games because since it doesn't have a lockout chip, a lot of the cartridges that were like the AVE games, American Video Game Cartridges Inc., it looked for the lockout chip in order to bypass it. So on a top loader, it will never boot up because there's nothing. It doesn't look for the chip to bypass it, if that makes sense. So
yeah,
that's also the problem.
And there's weird stuff like the game Genie doesn't fit in it. You have to get like an adapter.
You get the adapter that's hard to find. Sure.
Yep. But the biggest thing which I agree with you is the video quality is not as good.
It's terrible.
Yeah.
It's terrible. And supposedly there was like maybe some people got it where the jail bars aren't as much. But when you look at it, it's almost like they're etched with a laser into the screen. It's so weird. Whatever. It was a cheap
and to
version.
be fair, like when it came out in like 93 or whatever, it was $50. It was like the budget NES.
I think just the weird thing is not having regular composite cables because the Japanese version did. So like how much would it cost?
That is bizarre. That is bizarre.
So honestly, the best version, at least for playing the first party stuff, would be getting the Japanese version of
which
it.
I do have.
An adapter.
The AV Famicom, I do have that.
I have it somewhere. I never actually hooked it up, which is unfortunately a lot of
the original Famicom didn't have composite. So like the top loader version, that's why they called it the AV Famicom.
Neither did the TurboGrafx, I believe, and that's why we didn't get it here. They didn't bother to change the design internally for the North American audience. They rather try to sell you the Turbo Booster for $60 in order to get composite. Los cojones of them. So we've obviously evolved a little bit in our 15 or so years on YouTube. Is there much evolution left? You know, in terms of what you see that you're doing. I mean, when you told me, what was it, 3 years ago, that hey Pat, I'm doing like a feature length Tetris documentary. I was just like, what? I was like, feature length? I was like,
I remember you were like, you should just do an Indiegogo.
I did, or do a Kickstarter, and because that's so much work and time and money. Because you have artists, you have, sometimes you've flown out to do research and interview people. So it's not just. But back like 15 years ago, it's just a hobby. I'm doing this on the weekends. Like, no, this is work. This is work and effort and money that goes into this. Is entertainment and art that requires investment. So are we at the peak evolution in terms of what you see yourself doing in terms of this?
Oh, no. The videos could always be better.
They could
always be better. Every single video I make and I look back on it, I'm like, I would have done this differently. I should have done this. I should have done this. And of course, like if you have a bigger budget, you can go fly out and talk to these people and get them on camera. And honestly, if you had unlimited money, it would just be a never ending video because you just never stop finding stuff, right?
Are you asking for me to invest in your channel? Is that I can buy your
Yeah. So
channel?
I'd like to talk to you about something today. I've started an NFT. It's called uh uh GH coin, gaming historian coin.
Own a piece of my channel.
You know, on a piece of gaming history. No, I definitely think there's definitely more to do as far as like production value. But there's even like other mediums I'd love to explore. I would love to write a book someday. I think that would be really cool. There's so much more you can fit on paper than in video form.
Sure, and
There really is.
plus it allows you to go at your own pace. When you write, I've only done I've done these two books. There'll be a third. It seems like the process is more I don't want to say controlled, but being that it's drawn out longer, I think there's less of an expectation. People don't like for example, if you put out a gaming historian video and it came out and it was like 7 minutes long, and you went
Yeah.
back to your old camera, and you didn't have anyone doing voice, people be like, what just happened? Even though that could have been the quality maybe 15 years ago. There's
Yeah.
no expectation for you like what your book would be like if you did a book. You know what I mean? It would be like obviously
Yeah,
people would have to
I got
like
a
it,
clean
but
slate.
yeah, exactly. So in people's minds, it'd be like, well, this will be interesting. They don't have it built up. A YouTube audience is different than like a literary or book audience, and there's going to be crossover obviously, and people don't know one or the other. But maybe that's something that could be fascinating, where it's a totally different audience in some way.
Yeah, absolutely. I it's it's funny when you mention like if I put out a 7 minute video with an old camera, like what people would say. It's like when I make the longer videos, obviously they take more time. I'll always get comments that are like, yeah, this is a great video, but like it takes way too long for these to come out. Like you should put out more. You should put out some shorter videos in the meantime. And then I'll put out a shorter video, and I will definitely get a comment that's like, yeah, this was a good video, but like your longer videos are way better. You should just take your time and like make the longer videos. So what I've learned is that you can only work on what you want. You can't make these videos to like please other people because you're never going to please everybody. So just make the stuff you want to make. And so that's kind of how I've been operating past couple years.
Couple years. I feel.
Yeah.
I think.
I think I stopped chasing the YouTube. I stopped chasing I stopped doing the YouTube game 3 or 4 years ago, minus my weird obsession with 1 million subscribers.
Okay.
But, like I wasn't doing, it would say, oh, you have to put out a video like once every month or whatever. I stopped doing that. I was just like, you know what, I'm going to pick a topic. I'm going to make the video. And when it's done, it's done. And that's kind of how I've been operating.
I never agreed with I call it chasing the dragon, like you're a heroin addict, but chasing the algorithm.
It's addicting, yeah, it's addicting
because you are giving up a piece of yourself. And at that point, is it enjoyable at all? At that point, even though you're creating something, it's like you're working for someone else and not yourself anymore. And that never appealed to me. Like we've been through the let's play phase of YouTube. We've been through the top 10 phase, and oh boy, did I hate that 2 or 3 years
the
of
top
that.
10 phase, yeah.
We've been
Hey,
through.
I've tried it all. Pat. I've done a top 10. I've done let's plays. I even did a podcast for like 2 weeks. I don't know if you remember that.
No, I don't remember that. You did. Was that a phase of podcast, or was that just something you tried at the time? I feel like podcasts aren't a phase, are they? Or it's just something you want to branch out to?
I went through a little podcast phase.
Who'd you do the podcast with? How did I listen to this?
I did. So I did a podcast called Level 7 with one of my best friends named Steven.
Okay.
And it was basically you've seen Pardon the Interruption on ESPN.
Of course, PTI.
Yeah, so it was like PTI, but for gaming topics.
Oh,
so
no.
like, and we called it Level 7 because we had 7 topics.
Oh no!
And yeah, it was like 3-minute segments, and then a bell would go off, and we'd hit up the next topic, just like Pardon the Interruption.
So each podcast was like a half hour.
Yeah, it was like 30 to 40 minutes. And then we'd have like a big topic in the middle where we'd spend like maybe 10 minutes on.
So did you chase the format because you enjoyed that format and thought I can slot in video game arguments or discussions? Was it more modern or retro or both?
It was both. It was everything. I mean, and like I think it was because of your podcast, honestly. Like you were having a lot of success with the CU podcast.
Okay.
And you were uploading your clips to YouTube and I was like, well, I'll try that. I'll see how it goes. And yeah, it didn't work out. And I said, I'm just going to stick to what I know. And
is this on your YouTube channel? Can I listen to these still?
No, they've been, I unlisted them.
I know, Norm.
They're for me now.
Norm, I don't think you ever told me you were doing this. Was this like 2016 or 15? Because that's when the podcast
like
blew up.
2013, 2014.
Because the podcast didn't blow up until it started getting more popular. I want to say before the Chameleon stuff, which was 15. It got popular about a year before that. It started getting more popular.
It was like 2014.
Yeah. Wow. Well, we weren't like as close friends as we are now. We weren't roommates at conventions yet to the same extent. So I would have told you. This is what I would have told you at the time.
You would have told me to back off.
Back off. There's only one retro gaming podcast. No, I would have told you to try something more natural. Don't try to squeeze into a format. That's what I would have told you. Try to like just see how it goes with your interaction and chemistry. And then if segments come out from that through discovery, that's what you lean into. That's what I would have said.
Yeah, well, and I learned that I like wasn't super comfortable doing it. And so that's why I kind of stopped doing it and I just stuck with the gaming historian stuff. Because I was very comfortable doing that and I felt I was doing a good job. So
it just didn't feel natural.
It didn't feel natural to me, no.
Gotcha. You know, one of our other mutual friends had a podcast as well.
Really?
Yeah.
Who are you talking about?
Rue.
Oh, yeah, Rue.
You remember Rue?
Yeah, I do. Now, Rue. I have a picture of Rue behind me here.
Is that on his main page, the podcast? I don't know. I'm trying to see if that's on his main YouTube page, the podcast. I can't find it. Did he take it away or was it a different channel? Yeah, he did it with his, friend Dan, the other member of the Grey Wolf. There was a third member of the Grey Wolf, I remember. And there was like some controversy there. I won't get into. There was a third member.
I'm not aware of this.
There was 3 members at one point of the Grey Wolf. Joey's doing okay, I think. He's doing all right.
Yeah, I saw him at Retro World last year, and it was fun to hang out with him.
It was fun.
He came up just to hang out. It was a good time.
I actually got an invitation for this year's. Actually, I think this morning or yesterday. We'll see if it works out.
Are you going to go?
You want to put me on the spot publicly about it?
Okay, now you don't have to answer that. You can tell me later.
I got to see.
It's a great show.
I know.
World is a lot of fun.
I've been there 3 or 4 times. It's going to come down to scheduling and everything else.
Well, and that's a cross country flight for you, so
it's not direct. And that's the one thing that I've discovered. Like, I thought taking a couple years off from traveling, because the pandemic basically meant there was no conventions for 2 years. They were gone all of 2000, and they came back like summer 2021, then the fall were the first ones that came back. I thought, I got like a year and a half off. This is going to rejuvenate me. It didn't. It did the opposite. It was like a professional athlete being away from the game for a couple of years and trying to come back. And realizing, I don't have the energy for this as much as I used to. You know what I mean? That's It was surprising because I used to do. I think I told you my biggest run of conventions was probably that when I was out of my mind maniac when the book came out in fall of 2016, where I did 10 conventions in 14 weeks or something insane like that.
I do remember that,
and it was all like adrenaline and just youthful 36-year-old Pat that got through that. I couldn't do that today. Like there's just no way. My body would break down.
I think it was probably an exciting time for young Pat. To get his first
prime
book
Pat.
out.
I was in my prime.
Yeah, your book was out and people were really enjoying it, and yeah, I can see you. I think I would go to every show I could too. If I were in your position.
I think that's what probably happened. But once I came back and even doing like I did, was it last year? I did 2 weekends in a row, or even just every other weekend I did a couple with a weekend in between. And I was, after the second one, I was like, I don't know how I used to do this. I just, and it wasn't like it was more work than it was in the past. It's just like, it's caught up to me. And that's one of the criticisms I got one time. Was I think on the podcast one time, I talked about how much work and how much energy it is to travel and then like to set up, the booths, and then you're doing a panel or two that weekend, and then you're talking to people for like 6 hours a day, how much that can take out of you. And I think until people do that, they don't understand what goes into that in terms of the energy to do that. And I think we all have, maybe like athletes, we all have just that energy supply just dwindles, and it'll never get back to, you know what I mean? Like LeBron's 38 years old, sports reference. LeBron's still really good, but he'll never be the peak of LeBron 5 years ago. He'll just never hit that peak anymore.
No, actually, I was watching the Lakers play the Grizzlies the other night, and LeBron started, but I think like 10 minutes in, he went to the bench, and I was like, 5 years ago, LeBron would never come out of the game.
He's older now. He doesn't. Yeah, like he
needs to take breaks.
He can still get you a 40-point game, but he's not doing like 40-point triple doubles anymore. Like that's past him. You know what I mean? Like that's going to be tough. I say that now, and he might go off today against the Grizzlies and do that. But you see what I mean? Like we can all hit our performance levels that we did before, but hitting those peaks all the time, no, that's not happening. It's just not.
You're basically the LeBron James of the retro game.
I'm a compiler. I had some.
Yeah.
No, I look at myself as what was his name that got kicked out for Steph? Monta Ellis. I was going to say
Monta Ellis. I remember. Now that's a name I haven't heard in a long time.
Yeah, but thankfully I never chased the subscribers. I never got caught with that, because I think if I had, I might not have tried to go off YouTube and do other things, to be honest. I'm not saying that prevents everyone, but I've definitely seen, I'll just put it this way. I'm in a private creator chat, I'll just say, with like people that I even know all of them. But we probably have a few mutuals. And one person, I guess, felt discouraged just as recently and said, like, what is the end game with YouTube? And I haven't responded, but I wanted to type, there is none.
There is no. Well, okay. So here's a great example is when I had my unhealthy obsession with hitting 1 million subscribers. I thought if I can hit 1 million, I'll just feel way better. My life's gonna be way better when I hit 1 million subs. And I hit the 1 million, and I was like, yeah, I did it. And then like my life is still. Nothing really changed, I got the plaque. That was really cool. But like, it's not like, like I had this like transcendent experience that like I like beat the game or something. It's a cool achievement, but like,
was that discouraging or encouraging that it didn't really change anything?
It was eye-opening, I guess. It was a good lesson to learn, I guess. Yeah. Yeah.
Did you feel like, wow, why did I put so much thought and energy into this for like 2 years afterwards?
I mean, I definitely was like, man, I shouldn't have like thought about it so much.
I honestly didn't know you were thinking about it that much. I know we brought it up. I like half jokingly. I didn't know you were thinking about it so much. You never gave an impression of me like, wow, you're thinking about this a lot, like every day. I never thought about it.
I mean, it was definitely like a goal I set for myself. Like, I wouldn't say I thought about it every day, but I definitely like paid attention to it.
Sure.
But I will say that like I'm very proud of myself for hitting the goal. And I think the reason I'm proud of myself is that I did it. I hit the goal doing the videos that I wanted to do. I didn't try to do gimmicky stuff. I did it.
A lazy podcast.
Yeah, I didn't do some lazy podcast hosted by two hacks. Who sings that? I did it my way. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra.
Yeah.
Basically, it's like the Frank Sinatra song.
That's how I feel, because I know you dabbled with the TikTok a little bit. I did.
Point. That was a little experiment. I thought all the kids are getting on TikTok. I should go see what this is all about. And it's a weird place, man.
And that's the thing about conversation I see about like, oh, should you start doing more? And I get so many emails now from like, hey, we can edit your content into YouTube shorts, or we can edit your stuff into TikTok. And I'm just like, that's a totally different medium almost. It's video, but it's an entirely different audience that digests media in a totally different way. And I don't think I could wrap my mind around that and try to learn something like that at this point. You want to say in my content creating career, like why would I try to change up my whole philosophy at that point? That's what I think about that. And so when I see YouTubers like, hey, should I be focusing on YouTube shorts? My response would be, if you actually enjoy doing that, but if you think that's going to get you subscribers over to your other content, I don't think that's the way it works. I think they're different.
It's very hard to get people to go from one platform to another. Like if you go to TikTok and you're like, hey, check out my YouTube channel, like people aren't going to go to YouTube and check out your channel. It's pretty rare that happens.
You didn't see that uptick, and then they're like, why are all your videos 45 minutes long? They should be 27 seconds.
Yeah, I mean, and I did, when I made the TikTok videos, I did say, hey, if you want to learn more about this subject, check out the YouTube channel.
Sure.
Because yeah, it was an effort to be like, hey, maybe I can get more people to watch the YouTube videos. But yeah, it's just a whole different beast, and like you never know like what's gonna hit and what's not gonna hit. I think my most popular TikTok was on the Sharp Super Famicom TV. I did like a little 1-minute version of that video on TikTok, and for some reason, TikTok really liked that video.
When I heard about the monetization of TikTok, how it's like a pool of money that gets dispersed out, basically, I was just like, this is not going to be long for this world. Something will have to give eventually.
The more people that are on TikTok, the less money you stand to make.
Yes.
Basically.
Yes, it's just, and like they're never going to get advertisers the same way as like longer form things. Like it's so funny now YouTube's long form, because now short form is like TikTok and like Snapchat. You know what I mean? Like that's short form. It's really interesting how that's changed, because obviously YouTube had their 10-minute limit at some point, and then now it's like, wow.
See, we used to do TikTok videos back in the day. With the 10-minute limit on YouTube.
Yeah. And then, because I still have my playlist of the Pat the NES Punk videos, part 1 of 4, when it was like a 28, 35-minute video, like Action 52 or Skull and Crossbones. I used to write and do way too much for those videos, by the way, back then. They were way too long, way overwritten. That's the one thing I've learned the past 5 years or so, is like, write less is more when it comes to this stuff, for at least for my crappy videos. But what was I going to say about the time it takes to make these things? So, and you said you had, some people are always like, well, why does it take so long? Or you got to put these out more often. And I've seen that come up now with my book. Not to make it all about the new book. One comment I almost put publicly on blast, because it was like the rudest, and it was like a private message too. I don't think it was public. I think. Yeah, it was. It was a private message. Maybe they'll hear this. It said, what's taking so, I'm paraphrasing, why is it taking so long with this book? It's been 3 years. I have to finish my trilogy of book. They said they have to, like, they want their trilogy of books. Like what's taking so long? And when I almost replied, like, just saying, this is the most ignorant, rudest comment I've ever seen. Like, is there anyone who...
You can't say that.
Is there anyone... I can't say it was the rudest comment. I've seen worse.
Well, I think maybe I think this is someone that's probably just really excited for your book to come out, and they just like, maybe they came across the wrong way of being like, I'm excited for your book to come out.
They basically called me like a listless layabout in this message. There's no one who wants the book out more than me. Trust me. There's no one who wants it off my plate. Yeah.
Sure.
But it goes back to just making sure that, that you put in time and effort, because obviously you don't have to do a video that's an hour long. You can do the same topic in half the time, or a 20-minute video, but you said a perfectionism where you want to take the time, you want to make sure it's right.
Yeah, and it can be to a fault sometimes, my perfectionism. You should see some of the B-roll shots I do, where like I will film the same thing 15 times.
Well, of like a rotating cartridge.
Yeah, because I'll say, oh, there's like I have pets. I have cats and dogs. There'll be like a random hair. So I gotta clean it off, film it again. Oh, it's a little out of focus. Film it again. Oh, the light's off. The light's a little off. I need to change that. I'll film it again. I will I'll always find something wrong with the shot. And it's funny. I remember when I was getting the Mario Kart video finalized because I work with a company called Proximity Sound. It's run by a lovely man named Emmy, and he does all my audio mixing now because that was my least favorite part of making videos was audio mixing, and he's a professional audio mixer, and so he makes sure that all the videos sound good no matter where you listen to them, like headphones, speakers, your car, whatever. And he noticed a little mistake in the Mario Kart video audio wise, and so he was like, well, we'll just clip this part and it'll be fine. And like, I was like freaking out about it because I was in Michigan at the time. I couldn't like fix it. I wasn't at my computer.
Okay. So you couldn't get him a new track with the correction.
Right. And he was just like, I'll just work around it. Like no one's really going to notice it. It's in the final version.
And no one's pointed out probably.
No. Well, I remember I showed it to Kristen. I was like stressing. I was like, "Oh man, I really messed this up."
Wow!
And so I played like a 30-second segment where the mistake is, and Kristen was like, "What was it?" And I was like, "You didn't hear that?
it's there. It's awful."
Talking about, yeah. That's where I say perfectionist to a fault.
And she probably looked at you like, "What did I do?" Like, what?
Yeah, she looked at me like you're insane and you need help.
There's a slight, and I went through what did you call my Television Amico Christmas special? What was it? How did you phrase it to me?
Your magnum opus.
In my magnum opus, which a few other people actually made that comment.
That was a very funny video.
Thank you.
Like, Norm. Yeah, it was. Yeah, I was highly entertained.
Because usually they're not. So
because usually I don't watch your videos.
Usually you turn them off. That's one Ian actually watched because he doesn't watch them. He said I enjoyed that. And like for Ian,
I honestly I think my favorite part was the stuff with Frank. Like the
beginning and end
and all that.
Hey, Italian.
It was all based around the whole plot was you buying Strufoli for Christmas.
Oh, that we've done that gag on a couple other Christmas episodes.
Yeah,
it's a callback. I overthink some of this YouTube stuff with callbacks and writing references.
That's comedy,
to
baby.
I guess
callback. Yeah,
I guess. What was I going to say? There was an audio error and I went through 5 different renders of that video where it was like, because once you put it on YouTube and you watch a different environment, you'll see something you missed the first time, something in a transit. So there's an audio thing that happens in it where it bothers me. No one's pointed out in it where I'm just like, son of, it's probably the same sort of thing where it's like, yeah, if you listen, you can probably hear it, but no one's going to be that crazy except for us.
No one will know.
No.
Well, you will know, but
yes,
no one will know.
I hear it every time I go back to that section. Or it's just like, I had to bring the audio on that thing down just a little bit more. Just something. It was like one of those stupid things like that.
Yeah.
Has your mission statement now changed since the beginning of doing the videos? Is there like, is it sort of like, well, there's so much more that's on YouTube now and that people have learned about? We've heard the Doki Doki Panic thing a billion times. Like, do you see like, well, now I have a mission.
It's like a meme now. Like
I know.
Doki Doki.
I'm glad because it's ridiculous. And at one point it was
pretty funny. Yeah. Yep. Mission statement. I mean, I feel like I'm still doing what I'm doing is just finding topics that interest me, and I'm trying to put out a good quality informative video about the topic. That's what I want to do.
Because you could see where we've come in terms of in the past, I want to say 5 years. We'll go back to 2016. That's always like to me, like that's the delineation of now retro gaming is now mainstream.
Well, that was like 7 years ago, right?
Jesus, we're getting old. 7 years ago, yes. Because that year you had a few things happen. Obviously, the NES Classic, I don't think Nintendo realized what they did when they did that, when that came out. They had no idea that was going to sell out, and then they people were they
Oh,
did,
the NES, the mini, the
yeah, the
little
classic
mini
edition,
console. Yeah.
the classic edition.
Yeah.
I don't think they realized how much the retro gaming, at least maybe in Japan, they had no idea what it meant to people. I don't think they had any idea because they sold
Mhm.
out of what they made, like a couple million. They sold them out instantly. Then they think they made another million after that. And then the Super Nintendo, they made more the next year because they realized it. That,
Right.
and then I think I remember telling you, like that was the first time I saw like Super Mario Brothers on like two different commercials. There was a Bowser reference giving a gift to Mario on a McDonald's commercial that came out that year. I don't know if you remember that. It was like an animated thing. I think it was 16 or 17. But definitely when I saw two adults, we'll just say around 30 years old, on a Fruit Loops commercial playing the OG Super Mario Brothers, I was like, now we're here. Now, if a major corporation thinks that, a monolithic, blinded by corporate greed corporation is gonna think that, wow, leaning into retro gaming is gonna make us money somehow. Now we're here, and I think
Sure.
and then a few years later, you get the Switch Online, which people were clamoring for. You had the Super Nintendo Classic. You got the awful PlayStation Classic, Genesis Classic, all these new analog FPGA systems. This is all in the past like 6 years. This stuff.
Yeah, yeah. The FPGA stuff really blew up.
Sure.
That's
The
it's
TurboGrafx one.
fantastic.
The
Too.
TurboGrafx one, they announced that one, I think at this point, 2.5 years ago. When that comes out, that's going to be nuts. The TurboGrafx Mini. I couldn't believe that they did that. It's like, wow, Konami's mining that finally. And it sold well. Two Genesis Minis. Which the second one I still have to get.
Even the fact that there is a movie about how Nintendo got the rights to Tetris, the fact that that movie exists is...
Have you seen that
crazy.
movie on Apple TV, Norm?
I have, Pat.
What did you think of it?
Okay, I'm going to preface this by saying I am very happy the movie was made.
You're happy
Because
that it got the attention that it did? That
I'm happy the movie exists because I feel like this has the potential to do what movies like Saving Private Ryan did for like World War II history. Like that film, when I saw that when I was 10 years old, which I probably shouldn't have been watching that when I was 10, but
No.
it came out in 98. I was 10. And that really got me into history. I was like fascinated by that movie. And so I'm like, I hope people can watch Tetris and say, wow, that was really interesting. What else is out there in the video game history sphere? I don't know if Tetris will do that. I hope it does.
But here's the thing. It's such a radical, unrealistic version of events that if people look for that elsewhere, they're not going to find it.
Yeah, I know. But I mean, Saving Private Ryan wasn't a hyper realistic movie.
Yeah, but those events happened. Like they stormed the beach of Normandy. Like those things happened. Though.
Well, wait a second. I know they happened, but like
World War II happened. Like people were.
I know, but like the events of the Tetris movie happened as well. Was it exactly how it happened?
Well,
No.
Were there KGB chases that were
No,
there
not.
was there threats of kidnapping someone's family over the rights to a video game?
No. No. Okay, so now we're gonna get after my preface. I'm
Okay.
glad the movie exists. Okay, I hope it gets people interested in video game history. Having said that, it's not a good movie.
Okay.
It's not, and even if I ignore all of the historical inaccuracies of the movie, it's still just not a good movie on its own.
Let me just say this real quick. Rotten Tomatoes, it's just the genre on Rotten Tomatoes is mystery and thriller / biography. That's what it is.
Well, so that's one of my beefs with the movie is the movie has no idea what it wants to be. Is it a comedy? Is it a dramedy? Is it a drama? Is it a spy thriller? Is it an action thriller? Is it just a straight drama? Is it a biography? We don't know. It tries to do kind of everything.
82% on the tomato meter. While it's nowhere near as addictive or fast-paced as the game, Tetris offers a fun, fizzy account of the story behind an 8-bit classic. So I guess the reviewers don't care that this is like mostly BS. Like this is like Gorbachev was not involved with getting the rights to Tetris.
Oh yeah, like we should put you should put a spoiler alert.
Oh, spoilers! Gorbachev.
Spoiler alert. There is a scene near the end of the movie where they like go to the Capitol and Gorbachev's there about to give a speech on it was like the anniversary of some big event in the Soviet Union. I can't remember where they run the tanks through Red Square.
That's coming up. That's actually I think that's on my birthday. That's their victory day for World War II, I believe.
Okay,
I think so.
Yeah, in the movie,
May.
he's about to give a speech, and all the Maxwells run up to Gorbachev like right before he's going to give the speech, and like, we need the rights to Tetris, and he's like, my country is about to collapse. It's crazy.
And you can't tell if they're doing this for comedy or they trying to be poignant about this. I'm like, what?
They are. Well, it's like they're like weirdly trying to tie the rights to Tetris to the collapse of the Soviet Union.
All right. Okay. So that's what I mean. Like, it would be like if Saving Private Ryan, after they stormed the beaches, they were just like, they went and they killed Hitler in the next 25 minutes. Like, it's like,
yeah. So I
like a Glorious Bastards.
Private Ryan real quick, because it is I do want to say that like the opening scene of Saving Private Ryan is very powerful. It did bring a lot of veterans, like it made them very emotional watching that.
Sure.
But yeah, you're right. It is like after that very powerful, realistic portrayal of battle, they're suddenly like, all right, we're gonna go take out Hitler, and it's like an 8-man squad going to take out Adolf Hitler.
Which is what Inglourious Basterds is. It's like, well, this is just a hyper stylized
comedy,
comic book sort of telling of a historical account.
Right.
But this doesn't sell it like that. This is selling like this is historical. That's my problem.
No, because and they even do like the post credit, like where are they now thing.
Sure.
So yeah, just there's so much stuff in that movie I could talk about. The opening, so the first 5 minutes of the film is Hank Rogers talking to like a bank loaner guy.
Oh no.
And it's just him talking about Tetris for 5 minutes. They don't show how the game was made. They don't talk about how they had to reprogram it for IBM. They don't talk about like how it spread like wildfire. Like he says those things, but the phrase "show don't tell."
It was an exposition dump at the beginning of the movie.
It was exposition, yeah. 5 minutes of exposition about Tetris. And I was like, why couldn't you just show this? It could be like a 10-minute scene of like the game being made and like getting popular.
A little montage before you go to Russia.
Yeah, I don't know. And then they had this scene of Hank Rogers at CES Las Vegas.
Okay.
First of all, Hank Rogers, he worked for he owned Bulletproof Software, so Japanese publisher. And in real life, he went to CES to find games that he could publish in Japan. In the movie, he has a booth at CES, and he's trying to market the game Go to North American audiences.
So it's the opposite opposite of reality.
Yeah, which didn't happen, by the way. And then it's like, yeah, he's at his booth, and then he looks over, and the booth next to him is Tetris, and he's like, "What's this game?" And
oh
like,
God!
Over,
Oh, God.
And then my one of my favorites is like so he meets with the Nintendo president Hiroshi Yamauchi, and he shows him Tetris.
That's in the trailer. Yeah,
and Yamauchi's like, not bad. Which actually, whoever played Yamauchi did a great job, because that's basically what Yamauchi was like, very stone faced and whatnot. But Yamauchi's like, you should go to North America. There's something you should see. He flies to North America to meet with Howard Lincoln and Minoru Arakawa, who were the president and vice president Nintendo of America, and they're like, and they have like lab coats on.
This is in the trailer too.
Yeah, and they're like, we can't wait to show you this, and they show him the Game Boy in like a clean room, like it's like a bio weapon or something. But it's also like, why couldn't he just do that in Japan?
Well, yeah, were they developing it in
They
Japan?
make it in Japan,
Like, so it
not in Seattle.
was the premise of the movie was like, well, we like this idea, get inspiration by seeing the Game Boy, and now you're going to think you're going to get the rights to our packing game. Is that what?
Oh, it gets better.
Okay.
So, he pitched Tetris to Yamauchi, and then he sees the Game Boy. He's like, oh my God, what if we did this? And he like he's like, was this programmed in C? And they're like, yes. And he takes this cable and he hooks the Game Boy to the cable and then a Famicom. And then suddenly Tetris magically ports to the Game Boy.
No.
He was like, this could be huge. And I was just like,
oh no, they did it. They did an Independence Day hooking the MacBook to the alien
exactly
crack for the virus.
Yes.
No, he plugs it in and Tetris appears.
Plugs it in and Tetris just appears on the Game Boy.
What with the Famicom? That was assembly though, right? Was it even C?
Yeah, the Game Boy wasn't even in C.
So I don't understand it. They just made up shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
There's lots of little things like that. Well, it's like little inaccuracies that, like, yeah, if you're like a video game history or like a retro gaming buff, yeah, you'll notice them. Like there's one scene where it's like, oh, it's Mario needs Luigi and Link needs Zelda, and they don't show Link and Zelda on the screen. They just show two Links for some reason. And I'm just like, I don't know, like did they have anyone like consulting on this film that can point out, hey, that's not Link and Zelda, that's just two Links?
Were the Links like different colors, like Luigi Mario?
Yeah, so it was the Links from like Four Swords Adventure on the Game Boy Advance, where like you can choose like different colored Links, and you could do like co-op dungeons and stuff.
Yeah,
that's all it was.
There was
two different colored Links. It's like a blue and a green Link.
There was an inaccuracy that bothered me a lot in a video game documentary that came out where it commented on the censorship of Mortal Kombat on the Super Nintendo, but they got the game wrong. I believe they showed Mortal Kombat 2, which was not censored in North America. So they did that, but then they said, well, they made the blood green, but they made it gray on the NES. They made it sweat. It wasn't green, it was gray. So they didn't just capture video of the actual censorship. They made up their own censorship, and it was wrong.
Yeah, which is so strange because this is like, I don't know. I feel like I'm just one guy making YouTube videos. I would never why would I even think to make up a video for what I can easily just capture on the game and show, right?
It was bizarre. And I might have actually pointed out to the person that was involved with this and just say, this is wrong. Like, I don't care if you interviewed someone and said they turned the blood green. They didn't. There was no blood in Mortal Kombat. That's the point. There was no blood. They made it sweat. It's gray.
Right. Yeah.
And in Mortal Kombat 2, there's no censorship, was why it was a great port. So anyway, it's just weird because now we might get to this point, like, I'm not saying this is going to start this, where people are going to want to capitalize on this more. We've seen the Power Up documentary series on Netflix, which was shaky at best. We'll just say that because they didn't bother to go to Japan at all for some of these documentaries and actually talk to some of these folks for some of them.
Power Up, was that the Nintendo one that was on like Crackle?
Yeah, I'm confusing. Yeah, the Crackle one, they didn't go to Japan at all. I think that one. Then there was the other one that was shaky because they did like two different or three different topics per video, but they had nothing to do with each other.
High Score.
High Score, yeah. Netflix, High Score had an episode where we're going to talk about we're going to talk about the rise of like multiplayer game and first person shooter, and then also the FX chip on for Super Nintendo. It was like two different entire.
Kind of jumped around.
You remember that? I was just like, what is happening?
I remember that.
Man, it makes the video game year seem like high art at that point.
Well, and going back to Tetris again, like I can get past the inaccuracies. I'm just like ranting and raving right now.
I don't think you are though.
I understand it's a movie. It's not going to be like no one's going to cite the Apple TV Tetris movie in like an academic paper or anything. It's a movie, but like. Yeah, I don't know. The story of Tetris is super interesting on its own. You don't have to like make up these KGB agents coming in and blackmail. And it was so weird because the KGB agents, like, they went up to Hank Rogers. They're like, "Go home, Mr. Rogers. Go home." And he just like shows up the next day, and the KGB agents aren't there. It's like doing these deals, and nothing seems to have any meaning behind it.
Well, that's only my only fear is that if once they can discover they can monetize this, they'll just not care and just get it all wrong. The worst thing we had to fear before was the Pixels movie and how bad it was. You know what I mean? But that was what we had to fear. But that was fiction. This is saying this is like historical fiction. You know, like it's blurring the lines.
I don't know if I've ever told you this, but when a couple years ago, I got emails from a few screenwriters in Hollywood.
You never told me this.
Who were like, yeah. So I got emails from a few screenwriters who said, "Hey, I watched your Tetris documentary. This would make a really good movie. Do you want to work on something?" And I would tell every single one of them, "Yeah, I agree. This would be a great movie. I would love to like consult and like help with the process because I don't know anything about screenwriting, but I could help with like, you know, the historical stuff, sure." But every time they would email me back a few weeks later, a few months later, "Hey, we found out someone already bought the rights to this story. We can't make it."
But they never emailed you.
What the Apple TV Tetris movie was.
Do you think they bought it because they saw your video?
No, I don't know. I don't think so.
So
I think I saw an interview with the writer, and he said he heard about the story in like 2014 or something and started writing it then.
Well, technically anyone can do their own version. I mean, as long as they write their own thing. It's not like they bought the rights to a particular script.
Yeah, and that's history. It's you know, people interpret the past differently, and so yeah, this was like his weird twisted version of what happened with getting the rights to Tetris.
Norm, I see a screenplay in your future. You do a 2-hour version.
Here's
of it.
My version.
You can put some humor in it. No KGB agents like hitting people in the gut and chasing them in cars like the Bourne Identity. And
have you ever seen the film Burn After Reading?
No.
By the Coen brothers?
No, and that's supposed to be good. Well, all Coen brothers.
So it's a hilarious movie about these two kind of stupid people that work at a gym, and they find a CD with a bunch of files on it, and it belongs to this guy who used to work for the CIA. But all that's on the CD are the guy's memoirs. It's like, but these two people that work at the gym, they think it's like top secret CIA stuff.
Gotcha.
And so the whole movie is about them like trying to sell the CD to like the Russians, or like they're trying to blackmail this guy. So it's a very funny movie, and I think the Tetris movie would have been perfect if it was like that, because the story of getting the rights to Tetris really is a comedy of errors. That's what it is. Like people like messing up over and over and over.
So you can do a movie that's maybe stretches the truth, but stick more to, you know, the facts a little bit, and you can still have something funny.
You can have something funny. You can have something heartfelt, because you know, you can focus more on Pajitnov making this game, and like everyone's fighting over this game, and he's just kind of like on the sideline, like watching it all play out. And then in the end, you know, he finally gets rewarded for this incredible game he made. But yeah, I feel like that movie can be made without, you know, the car chase scene today. There's a car chase scene in this movie, by the way.
It's in the trailer, and I saw it. I'm like, what is this?
To the airport. It's like don't let him fly away with that contract to the rights to Tetris.
Sure.
It's just it's crazy.
It's bizarre.
Crazy movie.
Did you see Super Mario Brothers?
Yeah. I did. I just saw that this week because you told me to watch it.
I didn't tell you. I asked you. I said
you gave me homework for this podcast.
You know, hey, it's a tax deduction, that ticket.
You're right. No, I did go see it, and I thought it was great.
Okay.
I liked it. The whole time I thought, gosh, I wish they would have done this 30 years ago. When they wanted to make a Mario movie, if they had just made like an animated film about this basic story about Mario's transported to this world and he has to rescue for the Princess Peach, or he has to rescue Luigi or whatever. It would have been fantastic if like a hand-drawn animated Mario film.
Well, they did one in Japan, didn't they?
Yeah, but I'm talking about like a major theatrical release. Imagine if like Don Bluth did a Mario animated movie or something like that. That'd be crazy. Yeah. That'd be amazing.
Don Bluth animated. The princess would have looked like one of his women in one of his games.
Yeah, sure.
Leggy and busty a little bit.
Yeah, but it was a fun movie. I loved all the little references.
I thought it was very fun. I just didn't think.
Yeah.
I just think we talked about in the podcast. I just think they just did bizarre things in it that I just couldn't believe.
There are a few things that were questionable. I want to go back to the references though, because I felt like, do you know that meme of like Leonardo DiCaprio like pointing at the TV like, oh,
yes.
Oh, I know that. I felt like that watching the whole movie. I was like, oh, look at that, look at this, look at this.
Yeah.
So it was fun.
They got you with shiny objects.
Exactly. Which I'm fine with. It's fine. I want to be entertained for the Mario movie. I'm not expecting a crazy plot for a Mario movie. In the games, there is not a crazy plot. It's fine. There were some things that bothered me. I think the biggest thing was some of the licensed music they played in the movie.
You didn't like all the 80s soundtrack, the Take On Me and all the Sleep Till Brooklyn when they were in Brooklyn? I thought that was nice.
Okay, when they got in the go-kart and Take On Me started playing, I didn't understand. Why is Take On Me playing right now?
I think they wanted to keep with the 80s because that's when those games came out. Donkey Kong and the Mario Brothers games. That's what I thought. I said, okay, this makes sense. And plus, the audience seeing it, bringing their kids, grew up in the 80s. So I like that.
So yeah, I think you're right. They were probably trying to appeal to like the parents as well. But I don't know. The orchestral Mario score in that movie was really good.
It was great.
You could hear some of the references,
yep.
or like which games they were using.
Little motifs.
And yeah.
I thought.
But yeah, then I hear Take On Me, they get in a cart, and I'm like, that's just weird. I don't know. Felt out of place.
I just thought that, I would love to see a script without any of the Donkey Kong shit. Because Donkey Kongs don't belong in the movie at all.
What? You didn't like the Donkey Kong?
No. They don't belong in the movie. They have no character arcs, and they were just in there to give the movie 2 more action scenes. That's it.
No, they needed help. They needed help defeating Bowser.
Help that didn't materialize, so it didn't matter. There wasn't a big Donkey Kongs versus...
It didn't work out. They wanted it to work out. It didn't work out.
It was just...
Like Peach and her army of toads weren't going to take out Bowser, and she knew that, so she had to go to the Kongs.
No, I understand the concept of the story, Norm. I'm just saying there's no payoff, so why is it in the movie? It's in there to get a Smash Brothers type of fighting scene for another game reference, and they get it was beautifully done, the Mario Kart action, because if you don't have those 2 action scenes, you have no action in the movie until the beginning and end of the movie. You just don't have anything. So that's why they're in the movie. That's it. But when I was watching this, I was just like, I did not expect that. I did not expect them to spend 20 minutes hanging out with the Kongs just to get those scenes out of there. And then like Donkey Kong does nothing in the movie. Like he gets into a fight, doesn't do anything in the final battle, really. And then Seth Rogen doesn't even bother to do a voice at all. It's just Seth Rogen.
It's just Seth Rogen.
Everyone else does a voice.
Honestly, I thought Seth Rogen was great as Donkey Kong.
Just
I was like, yeah, I would expect Donkey Kong to sound like this.
You would expect Donkey Kong to sound okay.
Yeah, that was fine.
I'll agree to disagree there.
I didn't like Cranky Kong.
Well, it was just like you already had
I thought Fred Armisen. I don't know. I wasn't feeling the vibe of Cranky Kong.
But you already had a father-son dynamic set up at the beginning of the movie that they ignored. That was to me the biggest flaw. You had this beautiful setup with the family, which I loved. That I loved everything in Brooklyn. I loved the Punch-Out Pizzeria. I loved Charles Martinet as Jumpman on the Jumpman. Like that was all.
Did you think that in that pizzeria, you think Little Mac was back there like making pies? That's what I'm imagining. Is like Little Mac retired and he was running the pizzeria now.
They're trying to bring the whole cinematic universe together. That makes sense. I didn't know somehow that Donkey Kong went from being in our world to being in the Mario world. They must have retconned that at some point, but whatever. That's fine. I was just like, okay, they exist in the same world. Okay.
Sure.
But
of course they exist in the same world.
But I mean, they didn't exist in the Mushroom Kingdom. That's my whole point. Like in that world, they existed.
I see. Okay.
He was a pet gorilla in the first game. That's when they're still working
Yeah.
for. But I love the Wrecking Crew stuff with Foreman Spike. That
I
was
did
great.
like that, how they even reference like, oh, you used to work for me.
Yes,
And it's
that's
like,
great
oh yeah, like in Wrecking Crew.
because he started off his career working on the girders and stuff. He was a
Yeah.
carpenter or whatever before he was a plumber. But the like I said, the Donkey Kong stuff was out of place, but I love the setup of the family and them actually having a Pixar-ish adult sort of theme where the father directly says, "You're dragging your brother down with you. He's going to end up being like a nothing. What are you doing?" And I'm like, wow, there's a brilliant setup that we haven't seen in any game before. It plays on the fact that Luigi's timid, maybe he just follows Mario. Here we're off, and they do absolutely nothing with that concept that they set up at the beginning of the movie. And I was like shocked by that.
Yeah. I
Why
mean, the plot's not.
why even go to some place like that if you're not going to follow up with it? Stick Luigi in
Hey,
it.
well, I learned that Mario never gives up. That's the lesson I learned.
That's his arc. He never gives up. And
He never gives up.
Luigi's arc is I'm freed from a cage and I'm in for an hour of the movie, and that's it. Like that, and even if I still
No, no. Luigi's whole thing was like, together we can do anything. And remember, at the end, they both got the star power and they like defeated Bowser.
but that wasn't ever really in doubt that much. I guess if you say they screwed up but it wasn't their fault screwing up the plumbing job. It really wasn't their fault. It was the
that
dog.
was pretty wacky, huh?
What's that?
That was a wacky scene.
No, I actually enjoyed that because it was a reference to Three Stooges, "Plumbing We Will Go," one of their more famous short films.
Here's how old I am now. I watched that scene and I saw like, they initially fixed it and then like it like turned into a mess, and there was like pipes bursting out of the tile and the tile was being smashed, and I was just thinking, oh man, this is gonna be so expensive.
Yeah, your homeowner instincts kicked in.
Yeah.
I talked to one of our
It's
mutual
like, oh my
friends.
God.
I talked to one of our mutual friends who hated that scene. Like they said that was the worst scene. I said I actually loved that scene. I liked the good slapstick. I like how the dog was floating up and being mean. Like I thought it was funny. I thought that was hysterical.
I thought it was funny.
So you build up this brotherhood stuff that, like I said, isn't really capitalized because you separate the characters out after that, and they're not together for the rest of the movie. That's fine. It's for kids. I understand that, but
What did you think of Mario still living at home with his parents?
that was bizarre.
I thought that was a little weird.
Because I've said in the podcast, the CU podcast was like, that's like a meme of like Jersey, New York, oh, you're still like 35 living at home with your mom who does your laundry for you, but you have like an expensive car. That came to mind. But I just don't think they want them to be adults. I think Nintendo does not want, for some reason, they want Mario and Luigi to be like these weird, youngish characters to appeal to children. But when we were children, we didn't care they were adults. We loved the Mario Super Show with Captain Lou, where like they were obviously middle-aged.
They were like middle-aged working plumbers.
All the commercials and material from the 80s, like the Mario Brothers console port commercial, they are all older, and Luigi's all scared. Mario, where are you? Does a carpet for. He's older, and we've gotten to a weird point. This goes back to I'm not going to go off on how much I love G.I. Joe, but for something switched in the 90s where the corporations decided, well, kids can't like something anymore that has adult characters. They have to be younger. And that's for somehow what's happened with Mario and Luigi, and it's bizarre to me. That's all I can say. It's bizarre how they can't trust us to like adult characters, or they have to be like youngish or like 20.
I feel like the Mario universe really changed circa 2005, 2006. It kind of flipped.
You think so?
Yeah, when like the new Super Mario Brothers games came out on like the Nintendo DS, they kind of like set up these like really strict, like, these are the sounds that play, this is the music that plays. They became, a lot of those games felt very formulaic. It's like they added these strict standards of like what Mario should be. Whereas before they experimented with Mario and everything. You had, I mean, even just thinking about like how different, they go from like Super Mario and then Mario 3, they try all this new stuff, Mario World 2, Yoshi's Island, they do Mario RPG, like they tried Mario and all these different things. You know,
Besides, like Mario teaches typing, and that's where Charles Martinet cut his teeth.
hey, yeah, they're trying it. Yeah, they tried that. But yeah, when New Super Mario Brothers came out on the DS, I feel like they really like changed how the Mario universe worked.
It's going to be uniform going forward. These are the rules. Because
Yep,
remember,
and it was a little more childish. Like it was a little more for the kids.
before
A
this
lot
movie,
easier.
before
You
this
get like the
movie,
gold power up that gives you infinite lives or whatever, and you can't be touched, stuff like that.
they retconned out like them coming from Brooklyn forever. Like it wasn't mentioned at all until this movie again. Like they just said, oh, they just exist in the Mushroom Kingdom, but they're Italian American, plumbers that are in the Mushroom Kingdom. Like what is this? Does this make any sense? So you establish him as
Yeah.
being here. Somehow he gets into there. It doesn't even explain in the Super Mario Bros. Manual how he gets there. That was decided, with the basically the cartoon helped us establish that. In the late 80s, which is great because you needed to like say, okay, this is how he got to the Mushroom Kingdom, whatever else. But then they went away from that and just didn't acknowledge it for like 30 years.
Yeah, they're just these two guys in this wild and crazy world.
Yeah. So that's why I love the
And
Brooklyn
I even
stuff.
think they like I don't even know if they said they were plumbers. I feel like Miyamoto has like changed their jobs. There's like, yeah, they're not plumbers anymore. They're just like
That they wear overalls and that's
yeah, it's just their outfit.
then what do they do?
They're accountants
Well,
in
with
the
the
Mushroom Kingdom.
well, this movie I think reestablishes like this is what they are. I mean, it's a major movie that's most success. It's gonna be like the most successful anime movie ever when it's probably all said and done.
Yeah, it's I think it's past 800 million.
I think Nintendo's kicking themselves for not doing this like 10 years ago when they could have done this movie still. Maybe it would have looked as nice, but it still would have looked great.
Yeah, well they're already working on more movies. I just saw a tweet today that they're already starting to plan new Nintendo movies.
They want to do it.
They can do so much. Nintendo really is like the Disney of video games. They have all these amazing IPs. They can just print money.
I still think they'll do a Legend of Zelda at some point. I still think. People are like, oh, I don't want to hear Link talk. Get over it. Like,
remember that weird rumor a couple years ago that Netflix was making a Legend of Zelda series?
I don't think that was ever.
Do you remember that?
I do, but I don't think it ever got anywhere.
Came of that.
I think
I'm gonna let my cat out real quick. Hang on.
Oh, working from home with kitties.
Yeah, if you close the door, she'll there can be no closed doors in the house. She'll freak out.
I need a Castle Country feline. We talked about the last 5-6 years about all of these, all these like the mini consoles being released, the commercials, retro gaming being mainstream, which surprised me. What's also surprised me, and this is really only I looked this up the past 3.5 years, all of the licensed re-releases of classic games that have happened, stuff from Limited Run, from Retrobit in particular, like these companies that have gone out and come out with like high quality like packages of these games that you may or may not have had as a kid. Like one of the biggest ones that first occurred, which I remember speaking about, like this will be the test case. I remember talking about this with Josh from Limited Run like 5-6 years ago, was going to be Metal Storm. So I always said
that's the one I have. That's the one I immediately thought of.
And that was pretty much the first one that got everyone's attention because that was Retrobit that did that. And that was late 2019. And I remember talking about it at least a year or two before with Josh. And I was like, Josh, there's a market here because these games are good and they're expensive and hard to find. Yep. And when you market them, people will discover them because no one knew about Metal Storm when it came out. And people today, up until that game's release, didn't probably know about it. And so that came out. And from there, I think it opened the floodgates. And now there's multiple companies, I Am 8-Bit did their, the Disney re-releases. They did Street Fighter 2 and the Mega Man stuff like 4 years ago. You've seen this happen, and it's interesting to me from a potential historical perspective, and this is it. Something like Metal Storm is a borderline rare game, very uncommon, was not made a lot, at least here. No one really had it. Then it gets re-released, which gets it more fanfare, more people know about it. Well, could that potentially change the sort of the dialogue on history of these games looking decades forward? Where like if a game is obscure, but then eventually gets popular or more popular decades after its release due to a licensed re-release. And I think that's fascinating to think about. I don't know if you ever thought about that. I just think it's a weird sort of twist on things.
Yeah, I guess I never really thought about it, but when you think about, I don't know, doesn't that happen in film and music all the time though? Like they re-release or remaster an old album that was, popular, or critics loved it and they remaster it and re-release it.
I'm sure, but I guess with video game history being so in its infancy still, and that we're like the first generation of sort of gaming historians, so to speak, like the first ones.
Well, I'm the only one.
You're the okay. I'm a subordinate gaming historian in some way, but I just think I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but I'm seeing like obscure games, and I'm saying it's actually good that I think it's good that you have some of these obscure games being re-released because people didn't know about them. It's good to get them out there and people know about them again and have a chance to own them, obviously, and they can discover something that they didn't know about. I just think it's going to throw a weird wrench in things. Maybe we're going to be gone like 100 years from now. I think it might change history a little bit. That's all. I just think it's interesting. I'm not even saying it's bad necessarily. It just might alter our perspective.
It's a good thing. I Metal Storm is a fantastic game, and when they announced they were re-releasing it in this cool box set, and it came with like a little like figurine.
Sure.
It was awesome. And I bought the box set, and I think they like fixed some stuff in the game too. Didn't they like change some color palettes and stuff?
I'm not sure about that one, but I believe in Wily Wars they got rid of like slowdown in places.
Yeah, so they're like remastering these games, and I mean, if you don't like it, then you can always like play the original if you just want to experience the OG version. But like, it's great that like people are able to access these games that are, I mean, Metal Storm's a hard cartridge to find. It is
like limited run. Their big one. I remember when it came out, I said this is going to be huge. I said that to Josh, and they could order a lot more when they did Night Trap. The Night Trap re-release.
Yep.
That was a notorious game at the time that people knew about it back then, and just a lot of people just didn't own it for whatever reason. They didn't have a Genesis or they didn't have a Sega CD, know, for it. So that's an interesting case because that's like almost like a time capsule of how things were at a particular point in time. And it was like a touchstone game for the anti video game congressional movie.
It was one of those controversial games that the ESR, that formed the ESRB eventually.
And then you have Limited Run doing, and I think I'm not saying it's bad they're doing this. They're doing a re-release of Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. Which is which isn't really a video game, but whatever. I mean, I guess it is. It's just a schlocky, barely choose your own adventure, softcore porn game that was on the 3DO that's hard to find.
Sure. If Limited Run thinks they can make money selling Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, they're going to release Plumbers Don't Wear Ties.
But will that create a fake nostalgia? Or people be like 30 years from now, yeah, I remember playing Plumbers Don't Wear Ties when it came out.
Yeah, I was my dad brought me home Plumbers Don't Wear Ties, and he ordered me Domino's pizza. It's a great night.
Then we went to Blockbuster afterwards. I just think it's funny that we're in this spot that 5 years ago, I don't think I could have imagined. Even the possibility.
Well, you got to think about just like what the internet has done to these games, because I don't know if people weren't talking about Plumbers Don't Wear Ties or Metal Storm on these YouTube videos, I don't think you see a re-release of these games.
So if someone like James Rolfe doesn't do an AVGN video on Plumbers Don't Wear Ties,
James Rolfe, I seriously think if James Rolfe never did a Plumbers Don't Wear Ties episode, I don't think you see a re-release of that game.
Interesting.
It's part of the pop culture though. He like brought it into the spotlight. Like look at this weird game.
So if Pat never does a Mr. Gimmick review, it doesn't get its eventual.
I think you are the reason Mr. Gimmick is coming out again.
Well, they did the arcade release that you can't find here because it's mostly in Japan. I hope I can find a Japanese arcade that has it.
But no, I mean, I'm serious. I think Sure, you definitely contributed to like people wanting to seek out Mr. Gimmick and play it
I guess.
on an actual cartridge,
Oh, is that even
right?
out yet? What I got to see when that's coming out. The special edition. That was
Did you
announced in
pre-order? Did
August.
you get that plush? I think there's like a little plushie you can get with it.
Oh, no. Someone made me a custom plush. It's behind me. I'll show you, Norm.
Oh, really?
Yeah, someone made this for me.
Oh, that's awesome. I think they announced they were gonna do like a officially licensed plushie too. I may be wrong on that.
Gimmick special edition, old school challenge for the modern player. Yeah, they're gonna put like obviously better save states and stuff and things like that. Time attack mode, sound test, which is the soundtrack's legendary. Save and quick load. So emulation stuff. To be announced. I don't think there's pre-orders yet on it. It's going to be Nintendo Switch, PlayStation 4, PC, and Xbox. No, I like it. I love the fact that I will pat myself in the back a little bit if I contributed to people finding out about the TurboGrafx 16. I'm glad because obviously most kids didn't have that console and didn't grow up or even know about it.
I mean, hey, here's I just bought this yesterday. This is Advance Wars 1 and 2 reboot on the Nintendo Switch.
Oh,
it's a remake of the Game Boy Advance games.
There you go.
Online play now, and it's awesome.
There you go.
It's like one of my favorite game series, and now I can play it on the Switch.
Should there be a statute of limitations on how soon you should be able to remaster and re-release a game? Because I know people are upset about The Last of Us getting a remake, a full remake of the first game when it's already been even remastered in the past 10 years. So in 10 years, you go from original game.
They're remaking The Last of Us?
Yes. So like adding new things. So
it came out 10 years ago.
That's what I mean. Should be a statute of limitations, and they already did an HD upgrade to it. So there's like 3 versions of a game in like 10 years.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's money. It's
sure.
It always comes back to money. And The Last of Us is very, very big right now. So, of course, they're going to remake The Last of Us.
Sure. I think I saw there's either 3 or 4 different versions of the game that have come out the past 10 years. So, yeah.
I'm wondering what the next big video game adaptation will be. You see, like, The Last of Us was... I don't know if you watched it on HBO. It was good.
I don't have HBO Plus. Plus, I'm just all zombied out. I know it's not like The Walking Dead, but
well, technically they're not zombies. They have a fungal infection, and
you know what? We're at the 20-year anniversary of like zombies getting big again with like 2 things. It was like Shaun of the Dead and the remake of Dawn of the Dead.
That was a great remake.
It was. I saw it in the theaters.
Great remake.
So those 2 things sort of, I think, kicked off the zombie invasion. Then obviously Walking Dead.
The Walking Dead
blew it up.
Was big. Yep.
So I thought it'd be died off by now. I thought there's no way we're going to still be talking. It's like Westerns in like the 40s and 50s and 60s. Like, there's no way we're still going to be doing zombie shit. But no, they're doing a Dead Island sequel, Last of Us. They were doing 1,000 remakes. And I'm like, I guess people like shooting zombies. The Walking Dead has 4 different spin-off shows.
It's becoming an American pastime. Shooting zombies.
Just killing zombies.
Killing zombies, yeah.
It's like, that we can have fun murdering things because they're not really people anymore. That's all sociological thing.
I'm ready for the Red Dead TV series. If they made like a Red Dead Redemption TV series, that would be
just
give it to HBO.
Just a Western, but set with those characters, basically.
Yeah, it's a great game series. Would make a fantastic TV show.
I just think we need more. I mean, not we need more Westerns. I was complaining about they were so popular for 20 years because they were so cheap to make. But it used to be you get like one good Western movie in theaters every like 2-3 years. I'm not sure we're even there anymore with that.
A lot of them are like small, limited releases.
Is that what they do? Like I remember seeing Open Range in theaters with Kevin Costner. That was like, 15 years ago? I loved it.
2006? 5? Yeah, like 2005 or something, yeah.
With Robert Duvall. I'm like, I said to myself, this is fantastic.
Yeah.
That's what I thought.
A lot of them are small. The last Western I saw in theaters was probably The Homesman. Did you ever see The Homesman?
The Homesman? No, I haven't seen that.
With Tommy Lee Jones and Hilary Swank.
No, I've not seen that. I'd look that up.
Very good. So a little different. So a little different Western, but
you're into Westerns as well. I mean, I love the
big Western fan, yeah.
The remake the Coen brothers did. That was great. That was like 10 years ago already? Or no?
Oh, what, True Grit?
Yeah,
They remade True Grit.
yes.
Yeah.
Was that like
Yep.
about 10 years ago already?
That was 2011.
Wow.
Yep.
2010.
2010. Yeah, that was a good
And
remake.
that Haley Steinfeld, who's now in the MCU, she blew up. That's right. She was so young in that.
Yeah, she was like 13, I think.
And in the Transformers movie, Bumblebee was actually, I thought, really good. Bumblebee when that came out. Like, cool, finally an '80s Transformer movie. Speaking of nostalgia, so what's next for Norm? What you reached 1 million subscribers? What like
Done it.
you've accomplished everything you've had to accomplish. You've been contacted by Hollywood screenwriters that wanted a piece of Norm. What's next?
You know what's funny? What's funny is when I was like unhealthily, I don't know if that's the word, unhealthily obsessing over the 1 million subs, I was like, this is peak YouTube. This is it. This is the mountaintop. And
peak
then like
YouTube.
and then I like found out there's like a 10 million subscriber plaque and there's a 100 million subscriber plaque.
Oh no, Norm.
It made me feel better, honestly. I was like, oh, okay.
So if you were at 985,000 subscribers right now, would you be agitated? You'd be like, oh my God, I got to get back to producing the next video. I got to make sure I hit that. It's got to happen. Because honestly, that's what it's been like with my book, being that I've been working on it for almost 3 years now, where it's like, I just want it done just to get it out of my life. That's the thing.
That was the unhealthy obsession is I would put things to the side because I was like, I have to focus on making the next video. But I will say, like, it's a huge weight off my shoulders to hit 1 million subs. It's like a big milestone. I feel a lot better. I'm taking care of myself a little better.
Oh,
so like I'm exercising again.
You're back to the gym? Back to gym Norm?
I mean, I have like a little home gym in my basement. I don't go to the gym, but like I'm running. I went to the doctor and my doctor was like, you know, your health's pretty good, but like you need to exercise.
Yes.
For like heart health.
I mean, not just you, yes. In general, everyone needs exercise.
Yeah. 30 minutes a day, like a high intensity workout, 30 minutes a day is all you need. And so that's what I've been doing. I've been running and like lifting a little bit, and
I would even say every day. If you do it high intensity enough, you can do it like every other day. I don't work out every day. I work out 3 days a week.
I do it every day because I just want it to be a habit.
Oh, I see. You want to get into that routine.
Yep.
I couldn't.
So I'm taking better care of myself, which I'm happy about. But I'm still making videos, and but again, that pressure's gone. Of like, oh man, gotta hit that 1 million, gotta hit the 1 million. But the pressure's gone, so I'm working on a big documentary about the Fairchild Channel F,
the plucky Channel F,
quirky system.
And that got in the news. The Google page. What was that?
Yep. Jerry Lawson was in charge of, was the head engineer on the Channel F.
Was that in September? The anniversary of his passing. What was that? Or his birth? It was his birthday.
It was his birthday. Yeah.
And then they did Google. It was like, wow, Google has a page where you can make your own little video game with programmable Fairchild cartridges. I'm like, this is pretty cool. It's pretty cool.
So this video will be, it's not about Jerry Lawson. It's about the Channel F. It's about how Fairchild took on this project and how it was kind of a disaster. It didn't work out, but they were the first to the market with programmable video game cartridges, which is a huge deal. You know?
Sure.
So I'm working on that, and then I'm going to work on an Oregon Trail documentary.
Oh.
Before COVID hit, I went and interviewed all the guys that did Oregon Trail.
Oh, so you did some traveling. You put some money in.
I did, yeah. Well, what's great is 2 of them lived in Minnesota, which is like a 6-hour drive for me. So I just drove up and I interviewed him, and then the other one lived like 45 minutes from my parents. And so I flew out to visit my parents, and I was like, hey, I'm going to go interview this guy. I'll be back.
Hey, I'll be back. Put the roast on.
Yeah, put the London broil on. I'll be back. You know. So yeah, I want to finally get that out. I've been sitting on these interviews for like 4 years now, and it's like I want to do something with them. So gonna make not a little Oregon Trail video. I'm gonna make a documentary about the Oregon Trail.
The only time I sat on the footage that I had was it was 2020 when I shot all my most expensive games that I had, and I say I'm not comfortable doing it. Just a video of just bragging, and there has to be an angle to this.
Yeah.
And the angle was, well, the collapse of the sealed video game market that obviously was going to happen, and it happened spectacularly. It's probably still happening. The price is going down. So I dug out the footage. It was funny because then I looked at some of the prices of stuff, like the sealed games, like I had the sealed Pokemon Gold for Game Boy Color. That went down, not dramatically, but it did go down. But the sealed
Now,
Zelda.
does this have stuff to do with like the WADA stuff?
Oh, the crash.
Does this? Yeah. Does this? I'm out of the loop of all this, so you have to fill me in.
Oh, well, yeah, the game started crashing. I'd say it started happening probably tail end of 2021, and then 2022 they plummeted the prices.
And this is because people were discovering that like WADA was.
Well, no, because they couldn't get more buyers in the pool, and it's just a shell game between like 200-300 people at most. And then like games that were like, there was like a sealed Sonic that went for 300,000 that then went for only like 50. So it's like, why are these so much money? Like
$300,000?
Like a Mario Kart 64 that goes for 200,000 that now only goes for like 30. So it was inflated. So like people have lost a ton of money on these, obviously.
Oh yeah,
And we called it obviously because we're like, we don't know. We had a lot of podcast coverage, and I was yelled at in person by two different people that knew each other at two different times, yelled at, because these are people that are heavily invested in this and are losing their shirts because of this now. Because they bought everything up they could in like 2020 and 21 and 19. And it's like, no, a lot of people got in new money, fresh money, crypto money, you want to say, or they got in from collecting comic books or collecting coins. And they thought they can pump up this new market. And those that got in early probably did very well. But then everyone else that came in afterwards, someone's always going to be caught holding the bag with this stuff.
Yeah.
And they didn't listen to me and Ian. Were like, sealed game collecting, its own weird niche thing. It always was very niche. No one buys them at conventions for the most part. And most people, this was the arguments I have with these people. I said, we are satisfied just having a cartridge or a decent complete in-box copy. We never chased that seal thing. We never bought into it. And because of that, this will never be a sustainable market with like, you know what I mean? Like that's what the argument is. And that's what it is. Like, it's just not the same thing as comic books being graded, because with comic books, it's just like, well, you're actually grading the covers. You're grading the pages. This, you're grading the freaking cellophane and the cart in the outer container. It's not the same thing. And so it came home to roost. And that's why people like me and Carl Jobst were attacked for our coverage of it. And it is what it is. It's just,
I'm thinking back to like when I, shopping at conventions. Yeah. Sealed games was just like, I think the holy grail for me was always complete in box. If it had the manual in the box, that was like, wow, this is it.
And it was never valued.
A sealed copy, yeah, I would never go for something like that.
It was never valued historically that much more. It would be like, I don't know, a crappy game twice as much. If it was like a really good game, I don't know, 10 times as much, you want to say? It was never like, wow, it's 1,000 or 10,000 times the amount. Like that's what basically happened with it. Where like a game that was $2,000 sealed 5 years ago, now that game's $200,000. And it's just like, what are we doing?
That's nuts.
The Mario 64 thing is just like that was a tipping point. Obviously, it was people like, how much for this common ass game? And that's what happened as my printer cleans itself, which is scaring me behind me. You think you're going to tackle anything non-gaming related in the future? You're going to apply your skills and your personality and your charm to any other ventures?
Yeah, I would love to. I love comedy stuff. So like I would love to do something like that. Okay. I don't know. I know, but I do know that like for game and historian stuff, I remember back in the day on YouTube, you could like experiment a little bit with like different types of videos. As I mentioned, I've tried every single type of video. But like the way YouTube works now, you can't really do that anymore. You
get punished. You get
if I don't make a game and historian video and I upload it to my channel, people would just be like, "What the hell is going on?" So
if you decided to become like a food reviewer, you'd have to start a whole new channel.
Yeah, if I was like, "Hey guys, I'm gonna eat this personal pan pizza and tell you tell you what I think of it. Like you can't do that anymore.
It's not personality driven YouTube anymore. It's totally content like driven in terms
Yeah,
of like
it's like a TV channel, you know? It's like this is what we do.
like
You do one thing really well.
they expect this series and that's it. Yeah, being a
Yeah.
variety channel killed me because for a time it helped me doing the podcast, but then it's like people are like, well, I just want Flea Market Madness. I want Pat the NES Punk. I don't want, and some people are like, I don't want that stuff. I just want the podcast. I sort of shot myself in the foot. Like it probably would have been better if I just, split it out. But at the time, it's like, no, you want more content. Again, it's chasing the algorithm.
Yeah. So I would definitely like to try some other stuff. Like, I don't know. We'll see. Books, podcasts.
All right.
Whatever. We'll see. We'll see what happens. I'm not pressuring myself to do anything, but we'll just see what happens. You know.
Well, I got a good feeling it's going to be a good year for you, Norm.
You think so?
I think so. You hit 1 million.
I hit 1 million. That was big. I'm like I said, it was a cool feeling.
And then
to get, I got a letter from Susan, the CEO of YouTube. What's her name? Susan Wojcicki or something.
Oh yeah, was it handwritten?
No, but what's funny is I got the letter and I was like, oh wow, and then I like saw on the news like a month ago she had resigned as the YouTube CEO. So
you know what?
A fake letter.
She saw Norm hit 1 million and she's like, this is gonna be it. I'm done after this. I'm gonna go.
She was waiting for me to hit 1 million too.
She was waiting for it. She was
okay. This is a real story. Oh. She tweeted at me.
What?
She said congratulations because I tweeted a picture of me with the plaque. I was like, yeah, I hit 1 million, and she quote retweeted it and said congrats, gave me a story, and I was like, that's weird.
Uh-oh. Is there some grift going on here? Did you pass her some bucks in order to help you in the algorithm push the videos more?
I'm having an affair with the former CEO of YouTube.
Uh-oh. Pay for play.
That's right.
Pay for views. It's
Sorry,
like
Kristen.
It's like
find out.
It's like payola in the 80s on the radio stations. They just pay the DJs money to play the music.
Yeah.
I'd be shocked if that didn't occur on YouTube, by the way. If it comes out that like people are getting paid money to push channels or things like that, I'd be shocked. That's just how the human condition is. There's going to be grift and corruption. It's going to happen. But Norm did not do that. Am I going to be able to drag you out to any conventions this year?
I mean, we'll see. I went to a local one here in Kansas City, which was nice because, gosh, just being able to like go home when it's done is
cool. Sleep in your own bed, that'd probably be nice.
Yeah, it was really cool, and it was a fun little convention. But I don't know if I'm going to do any more this year. We'll see.
Or are you running on empty like I am, where it's got to be special? So
it's yeah. So like traveling on a plane isn't. When I first started doing the conventions, it was like flying on a plane was cool to me.
Oh yeah.
But now it's like, I don't like flying on a plane anymore. It's not fun.
I just don't. I just feel never rested. Like I can't sleep on planes, so I can't do red-eye flights anymore.
I don't sleep well when I'm not at home.
Mm-hmm.
Like when I was a kid, I couldn't spend the night at my friends' houses because I would get like a stomach ache. I would have bad anxiety.
Oh, little Norm.
Yeah, like separation anxiety.
I try to estimate how many conventions I've done since I started doing them in like 2010 with like SGC and like the MagFest that year. I think it was 2010. I think because it was after I moved. I went to the last one before the MagFest moved to the big hotel.
Mm-hmm.
Was it the Gaylord? Is that the one they moved to? Before that,
the Gaylord's the big one. Yeah.
So I went to the last one before that, where it was like me, John, Lance, and Derek. Like before RetroWare TV got all the new recruits that I helped get way back then.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't help get you though. You were around.
I was OG.
I was generation 2.
Member.
I was like 1.5 generation. But that was the start of that. And back then it was like refreshing. But then when you start doing 6 to 8 or 9 a year for like 10 years, it adds up. It just does. But I do enjoy seeing like the same vendors. I recognize the same people. It's like funny. It's funny. You won't think about these individuals because then you meet hundreds of people throughout the years. Like, how can you remember them? But when you see their faces again, it's, oh, I remember them from this location. And then like it comes back to you instantly. Some people say, "Oh, you probably don't remember," and sometimes I won't. But sometimes I'll be like, "Oh, yeah, I remember you. We talked about this, or whatever." So that's honestly, I do like that part. But just the grind of the travel is just that's. If there was a way to teleport to these, then I could do them. It wouldn't be the same thing. You know.
Yeah, they are. The travel does take a lot out of you, but yeah, right now, I'm just doing what I'm doing. I'm making my videos and taking it one day at a time.
All right.
That's my deal.
Norm, appreciate you talking with me again.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. This is my first post-million sub interview.
Wow. And we dropped a lot of bombshells.
Exclusive information.
We found out about an affair and other stuff. This is great.
Well, I mean, I did I've never talked about the pressure I put on myself to hit 1 million subs. I never talked about that on social media or anything, because
Sure.
I kind of got burnt out on social media, honestly. I use it to post new videos. I'll tell people when a new video is out, but I don't write I'm having lunch right now. You know how back in the day, people would just write literally everything.
I guess that's what Instagram has become, where it's post pictures of your daily travels, I'll post on Instagram once every few weeks. I'll never be the person that posts on it every day or every other day to get it. I just can't.
No. I've really scaled it back. I've even scaled back even just logging in and looking at the timeline. It's just I go on there when I have an update. If I have an update for people on a new video, I'll say it on there. But yeah, I didn't share any of that personal stuff, because it's people don't want to hear about this,
Well, some people identify with it, but then other people will take shots at you sometimes if you share too much. Be like, "Oh, why do you have anxiety?" Or, "What are you doing?"
I ask myself that every day. Why do I have anxiety?
Well, yeah, we're imperfect machines. That's why people we sometimes it just happens. We all have that stuff going on. Well, I hope you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Well, this podcast won't come out on the weekend, but it's a weekend now. Watch some good
Saturday, baby.
Watch
some basketball.
Watch LeBron drop 40 on Dylan Brooks, who no one likes Dylan Brooks.
That's right.
I rarely will root for LeBron James, but this time I definitely will against Dylan Brooks and the Grizzlies. You got me to do that.
It's a good series. Game 1 was great.
And then Warriors, Sacramento, Game 4 on Sunday.
Pat, I have to tell you, you're not going to like this. I'm rooting for Sacramento to win this game.
Really?
Well, I don't know if you know this, but Sacramento Kings used to be the Kansas City Kings.
Oh, you got to get a throwback jersey and wear it then.
Yeah.
All right, I'll respect that. I don't respect Ian liking them for no reason, just because they're the plucky, crappy Kings. He's like, "No, I don't like California teams." But I said, "What about he likes the Sacramento Kings?"
Hey, Ian likes a good underdog.
But it's then why don't you like the Clippers? The Clippers are from San Diego. Why don't you like them? We lost two teams.
You called them out.
We lost the Rockets and the Clippers were in San Diego. We lost two.
I didn't know the Rockets were in San Diego.
I think the Clippers might have come from Buffalo. One came from Buffalo, Ian said. Then the Clippers came from Buffalo, went to San Diego. Sterling moved them. Remember the awful owner who got rid of him, was forced to sell him, what was that, 10, 12 years ago? He moved them from San Diego. Then the Rockets came, and they were moved after 3-4 years to Houston or so. So it's just
know that.
It's I would love, if we had a basketball team here, I would buy a block of tickets. I'm not saying I'd buy season tickets. I go to a game every week, probably.
The NFL draft is in Kansas City next week.
You going? I don't get excited for
Here's what sucks.
Okay.
I'm a Miami Dolphins fan.
Oh, that's right.
The Miami Dolphins don't have a first-round pick this year because the owner tampered with Tom Brady before free agency started.
Thinking he wanted to get him to the team?
He was talking to him.
Oh no.
Yeah, he had this whole plan where he was going to retire from the Bucks and then sign with the Dolphins, and then Sean Payton would be the coach. And so the NFL found out about it, and they stripped the Dolphins of their first-round pick.
I think Brady's done though. I'm actually done at this point.
Well, did you see the news the other day where they asked him if he would play for the Dolphins, and he didn't say no?
Oh no.
He did that roundabout answer.
Well,
he was like, I'll say right now, I'm currently not playing for a team.
Well,
that's what
he hasn't fallen off. He hasn't fallen off the cliff, but he's not the same guy he was a few years ago, for sure.
No.
But he's 45, so at some point, you know, the miles add up. But as Frank always says, these guys, like it happened with Peyton Manning, it goes from 1 week they look amazing, the next week their arm is dead. Like that's what happens with a lot of quarterbacks.
That's what happened to Peyton Manning.
Peyton Manning was MVP candidate. Next year, he looked done. Remember that? It was just like, what just happened? Then
I remember he played against the Chiefs that year, and he threw like his like first 7 passes, 5 of them were interceptions or something crazy.
It was just
like a horrible game.
His arm just died. Like
he was throwing ducks.
Yeah, and then they got him in for that Super Bowl where like he probably should have been playing that Super Bowl. He just managed a game, but like his passes were like, you might as well get me out there to throw those, because they were just like they were just lobbed up. There was no spinner, there was no power on those throws. So that's what we are. We have as YouTubers a certain amount of throws in our YouTube arms, and after that we fall off a cliff, or is it? It's more. Well, I'll be retired. I'll be gone before that, I'm sure. I'm not going to be 65 years old on YouTube. I know that. But maybe the first generation, obviously we know people that didn't last or gotten out of the game. Some people diversified. Maybe it is
some people move on from YouTube, but everything in life is temporary, you know. The only thing constant in life is change, right?
Well, with that existential thought, thanks everyone. Thank you, Norm, for joining me. And I'll talk to you again when I revive this another 5 years from now for another
awesome. Looking forward to it.
Another not so common podcast when I'm close to 50 years old. Take care, everyone.
All right.